You're listening to the Business and Life Podcast, where 7 days a week, proven entrepreneurs share their success stories, failures, and give you true value on how you can build a great business and an awesome life. With your host, Mike Olivas.
Hey guys, I'm usually coming in hot, but today I think I need to come in real. My 13-year-old national group travel company was pretty much close to shutting down. I've somehow turned a negative into a positive, but it took about a week straight worth of strategy since all this has gone down. My team and I put together an 11 series best of episode, which I call Coping with COVID in Business and Life. Business owners and employees are going through dire times right now. They're losing their jobs and shutting down their business. I know it firsthand because I recently had to let go the majority of my employees. A 13-year-old company broken down in a matter of days. I'll rebuild it and I'll make it better and I'll make it stronger. And I want to make all of you just as optimistic as I am. So in a world of nothing but negative news and drama right now, and being forced to do nothing but take in all of this terrible content on the news, my team and I focused all of our attention to bring you the stories of how others have overcome rock bottom, to show you that with great obstacles and challenges come great opportunities. This special series is the collection of the answers of my guest of one of the most powerful questions that I ask day in and day out, 7 days per week on my show. That question is simple. Give me a time where you've hit rock bottom and were able to overcome that disaster. Listen to these stories. Realize that it's a part of the journey and understand that you are not alone. And rolling up your sleeves is nothing new to you. Listen, learn, and get to work. You got this, Life Nation. Now go get it done.
When I got an eviction notice in my apartment because I couldn't pay the rent, and I was always trying to pay, the most important people I had to pay first, and that really wasn't a priority, and I didn't think that was going to happen so quick. And that night I slept in my van because I didn't want to go home and tell my parents at the time that I got kicked out of my apartment. And then I found this is like every single week for years and years and years. Then I had to figure out how I was going to make payroll that week at the same time. And I had some money in my life savings, but, I really needed I really needed 3 times that amount. So I had this crazy idea that I was going to drive to the casino, and obviously red's our color. So I was going to play red. And if I hit red 3 times, I'm going to have the money, right? So I'll make payroll. And I actually considered doing that, which is a really stupid idea. And I did not do that. But instead, I called every single client I had at the time. I ended up raising, I only needed 21 grand for payroll. I ended up raising $46,000 overnight. I couldn't take credit cards because I needed to get the checks and I needed to cash it into the bank. Literally gave away over 100 free sessions to so many different clients and literally drove around all around Long Island here in New York collecting checks, got to the bank before the bank closed, got the money in there. There's always a way.
I was never very good at dealing with my emotions or the stress element. I would always be working to the top level, and I don't like to say no and that sort of thing. And in 2000, I was rushed to hospital with meningitis. Kind of like got hit by that, and really speeding it up. A year later, I was hit again with meningitis, almost to the day, and then I spent 18 months sleeping for about 20 to 22 hours a day. And then I was ill for 4 years, housebound, unable to really move about, suffering from depression, low self-esteem, all of that sort of stuff. And life just got really hectic. I've got a young family. Well, he certainly did then. I've known my wife since I was 8 years old, and we've been married since we were 20 and 21.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I actually got to the point where I gave my wife and my kids a kiss, and I left the house to commit suicide because I didn't see any real way out. And it wasn't out of cowardice. It was out of, I can't put my wife and kids through that. But the weird thing is, Mike, in those strange moments, there is also a moment of clarity. And although I was heading to the tree, I also got this very clear, I guess, mission, if we're going to take it from one point, that I was going to take people from desperation to inspiration in whatever aspect that was in their life. And that's been my mission ever since.
Hey guys, Michael Olivas here. I've cut my coaching rates nearly in half. And I've added some time to my daily calendar to help you, our listeners, with your business in this time of need. If you were let go, or if you finally feel like in the midst of all this, you've been motivated to finally start your own company, let's talk about my affordable startup advising package that will give you from idea to revenues fast. If you are trying to simply keep your company alive after this terrible epidemic, I will give you some great valuable tactics on how I did it, on how to not just let employees go or shut down shop. Let me help you keep your businesses alive and thriving. I can't help everyone, but you won't know if I can help you or not until you schedule a quick 20-minute call at michaellevis.com/coaching.
I was right in the middle of recession. I found myself in the hole about $16,000 a month, short between my business and my personal life. And so, I was in hard times. And I was the guy that was at that point, I came out of retirement to teach people how to get out of the rat race, only to find myself back in it. So wow, I feel like a total, I'm out of integrity. And so I switched my message. I started going to what I could speak to, which was getting resourceful, like how to find the money to be able to make ends meet, right? Or even get beyond making ends meet, getting out of that survival mode into thrive mode, right? And that's kind of what happened is I started finding little ways, for example, how do we refinance loans and free up cash there? Because some people get so gung-ho about paying off their debt, right? It's no, debt is not bad, especially if it generates income. But how do we find that balance, right? And, the other things, tracking your money. That was one thing I did not do. When money was so abundant, I wasn't tracking it because it's coming in like air. So why do I have to count my air, right? But when it wasn't coming in, and then I started to look at my numbers, I thought, man, I'm wasting money on this or this isn't producing income on my business, or hey, this is just money being thrown out the door just because I had it, and when I started to track money, that's when money started to stick. And that's when I started to actually be able to dig back out of that hole, and I still had to make income. I still had to do things that way, but, I was always looking for how do I create value for people? What problems can I solve right now? Not how do I make more money? That's the wrong question to ask, right? It's, what do I do to create value and solve problems in a way that people want to exchange money with me? And when I start reducing expenses and increasing the income, reverse the situation. And like I said, I was able to dig out that $1 million debt hole, $1 million plus debt hole, and come back.
The biggest rock bottom moments for us, which obviously weren't truly rock bottom because we were able to kind of pull out, but were moments when you have two compounding things happen. One is you have a decrease in sales for a few months, right? For whatever reason. Sometimes it's been performance-based. Sometimes it's been we had a salesperson that was doing a really great job and something terrible happened to them or their family and they had to kind of take a step back. Whatever it might be, sometimes, an event we thought we were going to attend and speak at or something fell through. And so, we were kind of banking on that. Whatever it might be, you've got sales decreasing while at the same time, substantial contracts canceling for whatever reason. So one of the times, and these are things that you just can't predict, you do your very best to forecast to be ready. And we save, for rainy days the best we can. But there was one time specifically that, one of our top salespeople, the one that was in fact heading up all of our sales, had some personal stuff come up and he had to take a back seat for a couple of months and was really, and we, it really affected our sales coming in. And then on the other side, we had multiple of our biggest clients cancel for reasons that were completely out of our control. One of them, there was a regulation change within federal regulation change with passports, and they're an expedited passport company. They went from being like a $60 million company to being out of business in a few months because it affected things. And then there was one other one, and I don't need to go into all the details, but those two things at the same time, compounding over 4 or 5 months, can put you in a really tough spot. So
I started my first agency in 2014, and I had no business starting a business at that point. I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember I had my first client. That was the reason I started my business, was because I had a client in the bag, right? And so I started this business, and I didn't have a process really. I didn't know how to manage a client relationship very well. And so I set very poor expectations. I didn't know that at the time, but I set poor expectations. And within 3 months, that first client had canceled. And I remember talking to my wife, just like laying in bed, and I was afraid to tell her because, she was like, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I hope that, and up until that point, I had just been focused so much on that one client. I hadn't been building a pipeline. And so I wasn't really I wasn't thinking strategically. I wasn't thinking smart as an entrepreneur. And so what that did actually though, was it pushed me to think about, well, how can I avoid this kind of situation in the future? I need to be constantly building a pipeline. Even if I have, even if I'm at maximum capacity or whatever, I still need to be working relationships. I still need to be building that pipeline and building those potential opportunities because, things can fall apart. I mean, that's the rough thing about a new startup is, a lot of times your revenue is it can fluctuate dramatically very fast. And so it pushed me to try to, and so, as I'm laying there in bed, this is where that whole fear thing started to push me. And I start going, shoot, well, I don't want to go out of business. I don't want to go back and get a job. Like that would suck. Well, what could I do? And I was just grasping at every opportunity I could possibly find. I asked a friend of mine what he did to generate business. And he said, well, I speak at conferences. And so I started applying to speak at conferences. I ended up getting in. I had submitted a pitch on a whim to speak at MozCon, which is Moz's SEO conference, and got accepted and ended up getting, several very large clients from that. And so, but again, it was that kind of desperate moment of crap. I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I better figure this out. And again, just trying stuff out, trying a bunch of different ideas to try to build a good sales pipeline that really ended up being what helped my business to be successful. And that's what led to my merger eventually with another agency. And it's just kind of been downhill from there.
Life Nation, you got to remember that in order for things to change, you must change. And in order for things to get better, you must get better. You just got better by hanging out with me, Michael Libas, and the Business and Life Nation. So come back tomorrow because I'm here dropping sound bombs 7 days a week, baby. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so you can take action and execute. See you tomorrow.